I never had too much experience with like hard drugs, at least like up close. And I remember going in there and I was like, hell no. Everybody's geeking and tweaking, moving and grooving. Everybody's just not good looking. You know what I'm saying? They're tore up from drugs of abuse.
Sure.
And it's ironic because eventually I would find myself in that situation. I'm like, oh, this is how that happens. And they're not gross. So those are my people who are just lost in addiction.
I'm a former Detroit police officer and rode with the 1%er motorcycle club. During that time, I was involved in a lot of altercations. I had a gun shoved in my face. The trigger was pulled, and I got a plate under my left eye. I'm Manny Vitale, and this is my story.
All right, everybody, how you doing? I'm Manny Vitale, host of My Fight, Our War, and we are here once again in Connecticut with our Connecticut family, with Ian, Big Matt Cronin, and the rest of the Connecticut family. We got a lot going on while we're here, and I do want to give a big shout-out to our brother, Coach Tony Morrissey. Coach is just an incredible person. Him, Mimi, the whole Morrissey family. They have a very special event going on this coming Saturday, the 30th. It's the Brian Cody Brothers and Sisters Foundation, and very worthy cause. And it's going to be taking place, I believe it starts at like 9 in the morning throughout the day, night. Please come check it out. And there's going to be a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of informative stuff going on as far as addiction, just all the different steps for recovery. They're going to have guest speakers. They're going to have entertainers and a little bit of everything in between stuff for kids. So please check it out. Brian Cody's Brothers and Sisters Foundation. I've been very blessed to be a speaker there, so looking forward to that. And my guest today is going to be performing with his beautiful fiancee, Kayla. And that is the one and only Skyler Ray.
Let's go, baby.
What's up,
Let's
brother?
go. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I tell you, we've talked about this for quite a while.
We have.
We were actually bullshitting about this before, I think it was Music and Mayhem.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
when Skyler was actually on the show. I reached out to him in Detroit, for our studio in Detroit. And just said, hey, listen, do a show, music, or My Fight or War, come on, tell your story. And boom, he's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And after that, one thing led to another. We started doing Music and Mayhem, and then told him about Connecticut. He goes, you know what, man? You never know one of these days, and here we are.
We both here.
I'm telling you, man.
It's wild how it works out, man. It's first of all, thank you for the invite on. I'm grateful. And it's crazy how the world works, how everybody's intertwined and everybody kind of knows everybody in the same circles and groups. I'm really looking forward to hearing you speak tomorrow. No. So I'll be in Fall River tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the day afterwards, it's going to be exciting. So look, it's on 25 Main Street. So if you guys are in the Connecticut area, make sure you guys come out. But on top of that, like, do you know who Casey Makes Music is?
Yeah.
Okay, the Jordan Myers.
Coach had the itinerary of everyone, the breakdown. Coach's on it, man.
They're so talented. So I'm excited. Wo will be in town. So Wo's coming up from Rhode Island. I look forward to it. And yeah, just to be able to be here as a trip, because we have talked about it for a long time.
It's incredible. And not only with us, but the thing, like you said, such a small circle. I came here a year ago, July 4th, just to be a guest on Ian's show in his studio. And that's how this whole thing started. And fast forward, here we are a year later doing all this. And through that, met Coach, who you already knew Coach, so then Coach, and then Anna, and then all these other people who've been on his show. It's insane, but you know what?
It's the way the world works.
It is, man. And, the whole thing is with what we do, and especially with the Brian Cody Brothers and Sisters, it's about addiction, awareness, doing whatever we can to help, like Coach said, formulate a plan, do whatever we can do. And, we all have our stories, man. I told mine, you've told yours, but it never gets old. And if we can change someone's life for the better, and, showing that we can do it, it sounds cliche, but anyone can, man.
Absolutely.
If you just put your heart to it. And not only get into recovery, but excel. And you're living proof of that, man.
Thank you,
because
man.
you went from the streets. You went from doing drugs, dealing drugs, the gangbanging, all this shit, to jail, to prison, to all this, to now being a successful entertainer with you and Kayla. So let's just jump right into this, man.
Absolutely.
And, let's start from the beginning, growing up, childhood, and how things were for Skyler Ray growing up through the years.
Absolutely. So my story really starts at the age of 9. I'm living with my mom. I'm living with my dad. I have an older brother. He's 4 years older than me. And my mom and dad not getting along. There's a lot of stuff going on in the house. And my mom deals with a lot of like mental illnesses and stuff like depression, anxiety, bipolar, things like that, right? And so she packed up me and my brother when my dad was gone, and we went to a shelter in Longview, Washington, called the Community House, right? So it was a brand new city, everything like that. Never been to Longview. I'm 9 years old, and I was very judgmental of the people that were making the food because they have the homeless people volunteer. And I was looking at them and I was like, I'm not eating what they're cooking, right? I'm looking at them like, nah, they're not touching my food. I'm a little kid, right? So I really don't have life experience to understand like that's just the situation that we're in. I'm being picky, and I've always been a picky eater. And so, being me and my brother, we always caused a lot of trouble, like a lot of kids do, right? You have the younger and older relationship. He's 4 years older than me. And so what it looked like was I would start trouble. He'd put me in my place and I'd run and go tell on him, right? That's kind of the dynamics of most brothers and sisters. And so I was throwing a fit over the food, and my mom's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go get you guys some food. So we're outside. So we just sit down on the curb. A couple hours passed and she never came back. And so eventually the staff seen us that are working there. They called the police, which is CPS, Child Protective Services, and they sent 2 police officers out to come get us. The only thing with that is they put my brother in one car and me in one car. And then they took us to different foster homes, right? And so what that looked like is at a young age, I didn't know it, but like I developed abandonment issues. But the crazy thing about that is I had this mask. And the reason why I say that is because until I got clean and I was older, was I able to work on myself and understand where those abandonment issues affect every point in my life. The need to feel loved, the need to feel accepted, the need to feel popular, to fit in, to have friends, the center of attention. And these were all these things that caused to it, which led to, the big ego with selling the drugs because everybody wants you, even though the love is fake, but it felt good because it fed those inner issues, right? I was that kid in school that was, always getting in trouble because I wanted to stand out or be the class clown. The only problem with that is I wasn't able to read the room. I didn't develop those senses yet. And therefore, I quickly became annoying, which led to fights, which led to I had to be the big man on campus. I was a kid that was down to fight anybody. I was a kid that was down to try anything, right? That was me because it would get people to laugh or people to like me. And it felt like I had friends. Right. And so I was always in the search to be loved because I didn't understand my inner workings and really truly realized that I had to be enough for myself. Right. And so I'm bouncing around foster home to foster home. And with that, I bounced around at least like 20 times. Even ended up like in a group home for a temporary home. The longest home I was at was maybe like a year. I finally got placed with my brother. Right.
I was just going to say, how long was it that you
probably
guys
like
were separated?
4 months, 5 months.
You guys were separated for 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, I would say anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Okay. The timeline's a little. I was 9 years old, so
Sure.
But yeah, I ended up going with him. I ended up getting some trouble, things like that, and so I ended up getting moved, right? And so at the age of about 14, I get out of school, or I go live with my mom. We end up clashing. Between what's going on with her and then like my anger issues and everything like that. We had a few blow-ups. And, she said, why don't you go live with your dad? And I said, yeah. And that was kind of the end of the story. I remember we didn't talk for like 2 days. I tried talking to her. She was kind of just like over it. Like, okay, you're going to go stay with your dad. And so I went to go stay with my dad, and I got into a bunch of trouble there because, bless my dad's heart, he was more of a friend. And so what that looked like was, yeah, if you want to smoke, you could smoke. If you want to drink, you could drink. Like, and I'm trying to be a rapper. So I'm like, yeah, we're about to just get tore up in the studio, right? And so, and then like my favorite color was red. And so like that always got me in trouble because I grew up in a Latino area they were all South Side. And so blue was their color and anybody wearing red. And then also like I made the grave mistake. My favorite football player was Randy Moss. And so he was number 18 for the Raiders. The Raiders are my favorite team. And so I was running around with an 18 jersey. Not very long. Learned my lesson pretty quick, right? Because their number's 13 and their enemies, they're like nemesis or whatever you want to call it, rival gang is 18. And so like I got into a bunch of trouble, me being hard-headed, me trying to, show off in front of like my two friends that lived in the apartments, and ego issues. Like I got into plenty of fights. I'd get kicked out of school, things like that. And then, my main addiction at the age of 18, I basically tried every drug in the book, right? But I was only smoking and drinking every day, right? That was my daily habits. And so when I was out there, I remember sitting down with my dad and my uncle. We lived in this this house on 156 in Powell. Right next to it was a shop that was owned by Roddy Piper. You know who that is? The old wrestler? Oh, yeah. Oh, of course, I forgot. I forgot we have the WWE connection. WWE, baby. But he used to own the shop, right? And there's a shop next door, and I'm sitting there, and the person that owned the house we were renting from, I lived there with my Uncle Vic, my dad. These people are basically my family. I can't believe I spaced his name. And Uncle Ronnie and Auntie Cheryl, right? Our families have been connected for generations, so that they're basically uncle and auntie, right? And so we're living there. The person bought the house. They ended up wanting to raise the rent way a lot because they were building like a duplex in back, a house in the front. And so I sat down and they were talking about they were moving. But here's the thing. After like 10, 15 minutes, I was like, all I hear is like me and Uncle are going to go get a place. Uncle Ronnie's moving over here. And I'm still in school. I'm 18, but I'm still in school. And I was like thinking to myself, how come no one mentioned where I'm going? Yeah, where am I going, right? Mind you, I have no guidebook. I have no one to show me kind of what to do. All I know is at 18, you're supposed that's the age most people leave the nest, right? And so I was like, maybe this is where I spread my wings. Mm-hmm. And I remember after the conversation, I was like kind of lost, I didn't know how to approach the situation. So like one failed last ditch effort. I remember calling my mom, and the way I was approaching this, how like you beat around the bush and like you go to like complain about something hoping somebody will hear it and be like, oh, I got you. Oh, that's an easy thing. I got that. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. Yes. And so that's what I tried to do. And I remember calling my mom and I was like, hey, Mom. And she's like, hello. I was like, hey, you hear about Dad and Uncle moving? And she fired back with, yes, I did. And just to let you know, you can't come live with me. And I was so taken back that was the response. I was like offended. I was hurt. And so I deflected and I was like, well, that's not even why I'm calling, I was just calling to say I love you, but whatever, And she said, well, here's the thing. There's a shelter called the Rescue Mission downtown Portland, right on Burnside. If you go in there, they have resources for showers. They have, you can get clothes, a place to stay. And so I remember going down there and checking it out, and I was like 18 at the time, right? And I never had too much experience with like hard drugs, at least like up close. And I remember going in there and I was like, hell no. Everybody's geeking and tweaking, moving and grooving. Everybody's just not good looking. You know what I'm saying? They're tore up from drugs of abuse. Sure. And it's ironic because eventually I would find myself in that situation. I'm like, oh, this is how that happens. And they're not gross. So those are my people who are just lost in addiction. But being 18 years old, you don't understand that, especially when like you have like ego issues and everything's got to match and you got to be fly. I was just very shell struck. You know what I'm saying? Or shell shocked. And so I remember going outside and I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'll find a different route. And I quickly made friends out there, right? And I was very surprised that like a lot of kids were my age. There was even kids younger. I'm talking like 40 or 50 kids out there, you know, within like a 4-year gap. And I'm like, this is so fun. And we used to go down to a place called New Avenues for Youth off of 8th and Oak. And from 18 to 24, if you're homeless, you go there, you could take showers, you could eat food 3 times a day. They'll give you like clothes, things like that. And I was like, oh, this is my route. And I remember that's kind of where my first addiction begun, because I became addicted to the chaos. I became addicted to the lawless lifestyle. I became addicted to the all day and all night parties.
Yeah, there's no responsibilation, man.
There isn't.
Is your brother with you at this time?
No. He's in prison. He went to prison at 18 years old. And then up until this recent time out, which he's been out for like 3 years, up until that time, he's never made it more than like a couple months. So he served from basically 18 to 36 with maybe like a half a year out. You know, he goes back in the group. So I'm out there solo, you know.
So with that, I mean, you got, and you're how old? 18 years old, man. And, you know, basically, so you go there, you can shower and eat. But it's not, you know,
it's not a place to stay.
So where are you staying then?
Sleeping on the sidewalks. I'm sleeping under bridges. And to be honest with you, there was a shelter called Porchlight, a little bit more up Burnside, up by the Fred Meyers up there. But the thing with that is you had to be in it at a certain time.
So they had the rules.
They had rules. You had to like check in at like 8 or 9, and they would like feed you and like put movies on. And then it was like, you know, if you leave or whatever, like you're done, right? Yeah, or like done for the night. Like, you know, there was no in and out. Back. Yeah, there was none of that, right? And to me, like, that wasn't like the cool kids club. But like every once in a while I would do it, you know, and like we would go like to the store, boost some Delsum, you know, I went to like a cough syrup trip for like a month, you know, and we would just chug a whole bottle, then go there and sleep, you know. But no, at that point it was like the party was outside. So once you found the shelter, you're like, nah, none of my people are going. You know, all the lames are going there.
Yeah, my friends aren't hanging out there. The cool people aren't hanging out there.
Yeah.
You know, so you got this going on, man. So, you know, I know you said that, you know, all different types of drugs.
Yeah.
At this time, what are you using? What are you on?
I'm just drinking and smoking weed. And then maybe some cough syrup. That was about it. And it's crazy because I remember someone finally, like, we're sitting down in the doorways, and it's crazy because we're creatures of habit. So we hang out with people that do the same drug of us, sell the same drugs of us. Like, that's just the way addiction works in most places. And I'm sure a lot of people could relate to that, right? And so, like, I remember sitting in the doorway and someone's like, hey, do you want to smoke some dope? And I was like, what do you mean by dope? Because dope could mean a lot of things. It could mean heroin. Yeah. It could mean weed, depending on like how older the generation is. And so I'm like, what do you mean some dope? And he's like, some meth. And I remember I like paused, and I remember like the blood flushed to my face because I was like embarrassed. And I was like, shh, you know, because at that point I had standards. I've tried meth at that point.
Like, I don't do that.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, just keep it down. And I was like, where are we going to smoke it at, right? How are we going to do this, right? I was enticed and excited, but I was like, we're not doing it outside. Like, you're crazy, right? Fast forward, I'm shooting dope outside. I'm just right in the doorway. I was a kid that, like, you're in the doorway shooting dope with dirty needles, and like the family crosses the street, right? Like, oh, they're really doing this out on the sidewalk.
They're watching you and looking at you the way you were looking at those people serving your food.
And exactly. And all he did was mention, do you want to get high? And I was like, ugh. So, like, yeah, my addiction quickly spiraled. My friends changed because now I'm not hanging out with weed smokers, right? You know, we're not passing around the pipe. Like, I'm kicking it with people with stolen bikes and iPads and 10 EBT cards. And that kind of became my circle. And, you know, then eventually someone approached me and was like, you know, I'm just straight smoking meth after this, right? And someone quickly approached me and was like, would you like to sell some meth? And I was like, yeah, because this makes sense.
I can sell,
I can use. And I could get high on my own supply. That was the number one thing, because at this point it was like, you know, this might have happened. The timeline, like I said, is a little blurry. I don't know if it was like a couple weeks or a month or maybe a week and a half after I started like every day using it. But, you know, I was like, for one, I can get high on my own supply. So that's good. I'm moving up. I'm at upper echelons now, right? I don't have to beg. I don't have to steal. Like now I'm the man with the bag, right? I'll sell enough to keep the bags going. And then for 2, everybody I hang out with now is a customer. My entire group, there ain't a person I don't hang out and stop and chat with every single day that doesn't need dope. So I'm like, this is a perfect fit. And that's kind of just where my addiction with the hard drugs spiraled way out of control.
See it with that too, man. I hear that all the time, man. It's like we keep raising the bar.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, you know what? Since I'm not paying for it, I don't have a problem.
Yeah.
Like for me, addiction, drinking, smoking weed, doing blow and all that stuff, that's not drugs.
Yeah.
What's addiction? Well, I don't have a needle in my arm.
Yeah.
But, you got a fucking 8-ball that you're pounding down and doing all this other stuff. Yeah, but I never used a needle.
Yeah.
So you keep kind of changing you're raising the bar
Yep.
and lowering the
Your
ceiling,
standard,
the floor.
yeah.
It all changes. And then you get to the point where it's like, I'm not paying for it.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, I'm not begging, I'm not stealing. So,
I got it. It's around. So it doesn't seem like you minimize it, right? And then like the drug dealing, I saw it as a transactional thing. Like it's crazy getting clean and looking back and seeing the harm. Like I'm sure if I didn't sell that person drugs, there's a good chance they would have went somewhere else, right? That's just the way the addiction works, right? They're going to find it somewhere else. But I think about the people, the dads, the mothers, the children that I was selling dope to and feeding their addiction. And it causes a lot of pain, not only for that person, but like the families, right? But at the time, I saw it as a transactional. I saw nothing wrong with it. Of course, it's against the law, but I was like, I'm running a business. I have a product. They want to buy it. Like, how is it my fault their life is falling apart?
Hey, I'm selling it. I'm not stealing. I'm not robbing them.
No.
Like you said, it's a product. It's supply and demand.
It's like selling tamales on the corner. That's the way I looked at it in my active addiction. So I never thought about the damage that I was doing to my community and everything like that. It's crazy how you look at things through a different lens. Hindsight 2020.
With this too, I mean, as we look at things now, it's completely different, obviously. But so you saw life as a little kid. Is the homeless people serving you? Now you're that person.
Yeah.
But going through these different levels of changing the parameters and all that. What about we went through the drugs and all that? What about jail time, man? When's the first time that you got locked up or had experience with the police?
So the first time I had experience for the police, I had a neighbor. I was like 18. And this was before I was still living at the Orange House on 156 next to Roddy Piper's shop, right? And he was running like paperboy route. And he's like, do you want to like fill in for a couple of days? I'll pay like $50 a day or whatever it was, right? It's not much. It's paperboy route stuff. But to me, I was like, I was like, that's weed money. That's drink money. I don't got to beg for weed hits from uncle or dad. Like, this is what it is. Like, I would like some, So I remember we filled in for a couple of days and I was sitting there and we kept passing this house like a night or two. And the first night, like this weed stench hit you. And I was like, that place smells like weed. And I remember getting back in the car, like we'd have a driver, one would get out this side, I'd get out this side, run a couple blocks, drive to the next destination, deliver a newspaper, the Oregonian. And after a couple of days, we're like, dude, there's weed in that house. And they had a note on their door that said, hey, I'm out of town for the week. Please throw the newspapers over the side. And I was like, you want to go hit it, right? I don't remember who came up with the idea, but I was definitely in on it, right? And so I remember we hit it, and I remember we broke the window, went in through the side, took all this weed, and then we got the bright idea to start hitting some other places. And eventually, this happened for like 3 or 4 nights. Total that I was doing the newspaper. I'd only been hitting stuff for a couple of days. Then we started like checking cars and like, hitting stuff. And I remember we hit this one storage. It was like a garage type thing, but it wasn't attached to a building. And I felt so bad because we hit it. And as we were pulling out, I remember like looking and I was like, oh no, that was a church we just hit. Right? And because I seen like the cross, but I didn't even see we just pulled up. There's like this shed. We're taking like weed whackers, lawnmowers, like whatever we could sell. Yeah. And I didn't see it. Well, eventually we get pulled over by the cops. And I remember the church filed a thing. a complaint, and that's why they started looking. And what happened is because it had 4 walls and a roof over it, it counted as it could be a livable situation. Yeah, a dwelling.
B&E.
And so I got burged too. And so I started out on probation. Well, I didn't have no trouble for a little bit. It was my first time, so I was on bench probation, meaning you just stay out of trouble, you don't have to check in, right? Well, being homeless, you get trespass charges because you're on the side of businesses. They don't want 40, 50 kids out front smoking whatever drugs you're using. It's bad for business.
Yeah.
Right? Especially at night. Like, people aren't cleaning up. Business owner shows up at 6 a.m. There's stuff everywhere. There's kids out front giving them lip because they don't want to leave. So that's all it took was for me to keep getting arrested. So that's kind of where first run-in with the jail was the B&E, right? Mm-hmm. The second run-in was me being homeless. And if I'm selling or using and you have drugs on you, you're getting arrested a bunch. And I remember this crazy stint. I remember doing 6 months, getting out for 3 days, doing 9 months, getting out for 6 days, going back and do another 9 months. So I did 6 months, 6 months, or 6 months, 9 months, 9 months with a 9-day break in between. And it was crazy because there were sometimes I would wake up in the morning, Davis, roll out, right? So you roll up your stuff, you leave, and the very next time you go to bed is back in the jail cell. Because you're on drugs, right? So you never even slept on the outside. And it's like, damn, last time I woke up was in a jail cell. Now the very next time I go to sleep is a jail cell, because I wouldn't check in with my probation officer. And so it was like, you tell yourself, when I get out, I'm going to do something different. When I get out, I'm going to get a job, never had one, but I'm going to work and figure it out, right? Not every time. Sometimes you're like, when I get out, I'm going to get high.
Oh, yeah.
But no matter what your train of thought was, soon as that cell popped, you sign for your property and you walk out, I wouldn't even make it to my probation office. And therefore, that's why the 3 days is 6 days, because cops are always patrolling the homeless. They know where the hot spots are.
Sure.
So all it took was them rolling up and I would have a warrant every single time. And so
to appear.
Yeah.
Boom.
So, I mean, I probably, between jail and prison, I probably did about 5 years total. So,
Jeez, and with something like that too, man. I mean, it's just that vicious circle where, and while you're in, because I've had people come on and they're talking about jail, and everyone has their different experiences. And a lot of them are like, listen, man, I went in, and some of them, they're like, there's no, programs, and some of them there are, but you got to be part of it and then work it. But if you're not ready, like you said, man, having guests who've been on and I had one guest, he did 9 years.
Yeah.
Got out. First thing he did, right to the trap house, man. Got out and got picked up the next morning.
That's crazy.
After 9 years. And he goes, and all that time, he goes, you get whatever you get in prison.
Yeah.
But he goes, for the most part, I was sober.
Yeah.
And then, boom, hit again. So, I mean,
without that accountability or structure, it's different.
You don't have it, man. So here you're in and out, like you said, 5 years.
Yeah.
For you being locked up, man, what was that like for you in there? When, you hear all these aha moments where this was the moment where I saw clarity. Yeah. When did that happen for you?
Well, I would say the time that it really hit was when I was in prison. I was 27 years old. I got kind of tired of doing what I was doing, meaning sitting in timeout. Because before that, I never got hit with more than a year. And so when I went to prison, I got 24 months. I took a plea deal. And I got a chance to sit and think about my actions while I was in there. Like, a year clean is a long time, right? To get your brain start firing right. Mm-hmm. And so I remember sitting in there and, I really had a chance to analyze my life and realize the way I treated people wasn't the way that I wanted to be. The type of friend I wasn't the way I wanted to be a friend or lead. I thought about all the relationships, the way I treated the women. And it kind of just sat with me in an ugly way because that's not who I am at heart. I never could understand why I did certain things. And it doesn't feel good to be a bully. It doesn't feel good to be mean. And so, I started thinking to myself, well, what do I want to do in my life? And that was a super easy answer. It was right away, music. I want to do music since I was 9. I've been doing music since 11. So I'm 27 years old. I'm in prison. And I started thinking, well, what can I do differently? Because at this point, I've been making music 16, 17 years, and I only had like 40,000 streams. Like, that's nowhere close to even getting any traction or sniffing any success, right?
And the thing is, too, I remember we were talking about this, that the one thing that changed when you got out, like you said, you had the plan. I'm going to do music. But you said the one thing that you did that you never did was perform sober.
Yeah, I've never done it clean. And that was the thing. And so, like, I'm sitting there and I was like, what is my best chance with music? What's something so like that I have never done? I got to think outside the box. I'm deep in thought. I'm on my prison bed. And I started thinking, well, I've never done it sober. Even at 13, 14 years old, I'm drinking and smoking in the parking lot, getting snuck into the side of the clubs, the old Copper Penny, Froggers, Rock and Roll Pizza. These are all joints in Portland, right? And performing at all these places. And, you know, I started thinking, okay, I want to try something different. So when I got clean, I didn't get clean to be in recovery. I thought it was corny. I thought it was cliche. I damn sure as hell wasn't going to a meeting. That was a punishment. You don't go to a meeting and get your slip signed. You go straight to jail, right? Straight to jail. And so I was like, nah, we're not doing that, right? And so I decided I'm going to do it clean for my best chance at music. And so, like, no cutting corners, 100% accountability. I have to do it for myself this time. It can't be for my probation officer, parole officer, mom, dad, family, like, because what's going to happen when they're gone?
Exactly.
You know, I'm going to think I could be sneaky. And this plan of attack needs me to be 100% focused. I made a commitment to myself that day. And so if you guys ever see my logo, it's a microphone with wings. And the reason for that is because it symbolizes that conversation I had with myself and the outcome because of it. I got clean for music. I stay clean nowadays because the life that recovery has provided for me, I refuse to negotiate with, bargain with, or give up any of the things that I have gained along the way. My dreams are coming true. And so because when I reflected on that conversation, I thought to myself, what is the best chance, or what's going to happen? It's going to go one of two ways. If I go out there and I'm clean, 100% accountability, right? No cutting corners. What are the results? What can happen? I got to think this plan fully out. Okay. I go out there and one, either my dreams are going to come true, everything that I ever wanted, that 9-year-old boy that wanted to do music for a living, I owe it to him. And his dreams are going to come true, right? Before addiction came around. Or two, I don't make it in the music industry. And maybe it's because I don't have what it takes. And I started thinking, can I live with that? You know, and I thought, yes, I could live with that if I don't have what it takes to make it in the music industry, because a lot of people don't have what it takes to make it in the preferred job that they want. And that's reality.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we're not all cut out to do everything. But I thought to myself, I could live with that if I gave it an honest effort, you know. But what I wouldn't be able to live with is if I cut corners, if I didn't stick to my plan, and I got older, I think I would be grumpy. I think I'd be ornery. I think the remorse would really put me in a bad spot mentally, thinking or telling people, oh, I could have done that if I wanted to, because, you know, everybody thinks, well, why didn't you?
No, you hear, you know, I say it all the time, man, you live with regret. Regret will always be there if you let it. And I remember, you know, other things that, you know, like we were talking about is I remembered, you know, you told me what I never did. I never performed sober. Yeah. And then, you know, so that's, where did addiction get you? It got me, you know, playing shit because you said you weren't getting views. Yeah. So that's what addiction was getting you. Yeah. And then I remember what you said about what you were singing.
The content
changed. You were singing about or rapping about, you know,
sex,
doing all these
drugs,
girls, stealing cars, doing this. And you go, I was taking the bus. You know, I never did any of this stuff. But I'm rapping from the heart about it until you switched to this now and started rapping about what
my life was.
It's what Skyler Ray is, not what these, you know,
here on the radio or
and then boom, the changes came, man.
Yeah, it did. I used to rap about all types of stuff: drugs, sex, chains, jewelry, guns, cars, Lamborghinis. So and I was taking the bus to school or taking the bus to places, right? Begging for a bong hit. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, you said you were saying for money that one time you were finding cigarettes on the ground. Rolling cigarettes, anything, and you know, here, but then, man, I'm in a Lamborghini.
Selling pounds with these women.
It's just like, what were you doing? Well, I was under the bridge.
I was
road.
lying in front in my music.
And people, even people in recovery, addicts, you cannot fool.
They know what's up.
Man, you start rapping about something like that, they're going to be like, bullshit.
Yeah.
You start rapping or anything when it comes from the heart. We say it all the time. Don't try to bullshit an addict. I'll catch your ass in the first two sentences. Don't. And then when it comes off with your music, I mean, I obviously know nothing about that.
Yeah.
But listening to you, as soon as you started rapping from the heart and from reality,
the whole thing changed. The perspective, and it's crazy because once I became myself, people were willing to accept me because it was an authentic message and people can relate to it. And what they say is like when you're comfortable in your own skin, you'll find your people.
Oh, yes.
And so everything changed. It started taking off. We've been able to rock arenas. We've been able to travel the world. We've been able to go on multiple tours, work with platinum selling artists, Grammy award winning sound engineers, do shows and tour with big name artists. And we're on the Road to Recovery tour right now. Upcoming show this. Days are mixed up. The next show is tomorrow, Fall River, and that's the 103rd stop on this tour, the Road to Recovery tour.
I gotta jump in because you keep saying we, and I know who the we is.
Yeah,
and this we is pretty important to the story because she's pretty freaking incredible, man. I've had the pleasure of getting to know her and meet her, and that we is Kayla.
Yes.
So, why don't you kind of throw, some stuff out there? Kayla is very instrumental in all this. So how'd that all come about?
Kayla is everything. Kayla is a superstar. She is the star of the show. She is powerful. She is inspirational. Hands down, like I said, I've worked with so many industry, even household names. And I have never met an artist that I know personally or worked with as talented as Kayla.
And her voice is magical, man.
It's magical. And here's the thing with that is she's my partner, my best friend, the rock of the operation, right? On top of that, we met. I used to walk laps in prison with this guy. And it's crazy because we would always walk laps. Sometimes we would talk. Sometimes we would just listen to the radio. He'd have his radio. I'd have my radio. Sometimes we wouldn't talk, but we would walk, right? And one day he asked me when we're out in prison around the track, and he asked me when I get out, he said, "You rap, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "When I get out, you should let me manage you." And I was just like, yeah. I said it because he was like my walking partner at the time, and I didn't want to disagree with him, but I never thought that I would have to live up to that or give that opportunity because I was like, I don't know when he's getting out. I never asked. I just knew I was 6 months to the gate, and I was like, yeah, sure, just hit me up, I get out of prison and I get a message a day or a couple of days later, and he's like, "Yo, what up? I'm out." He's like, "You still doing your music?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You should let me manage you, what we talked about." And I remember I was like, ugh, this is so lame. I was like, I guess I got to be a man of my word, I was like, this is stupid. I got myself in a pickle here. I was like, sure, whatever. And the reason why I don't like managers or things like that is just because I feel like I know the work I put in. And I don't want to share my cake with somebody if I feel like I'll work circles around them. It's like, why do I outwork you and you get a piece of my cake, Sure. So that's been my thought. I know there's managers out there that are worth it. I just haven't met those people, right? And so I was like, okay. And so he has his car in the shop. If you believe in coincidences, if you believe in fate, if you just believe in whatever, this is how it lined out. He is in the shop. Or he has his car in the shop, so he's taking the bus. He don't take the bus normally. Kayla, I don't know Kayla at this point. She gets into a car wreck, and so she has no car. So she's taking the bus randomly. They meet on this bus, and he's like, "Hey, check it out. You like hip hop? Here's this artist I manage." Two strangers just talking, right? And Kayla's checking out. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, this is my boy. This is me. Look, I'm even in the video." And Kayla's like, "I sing. That's cool. I like music. I'm into music. I sing." And he's like, "You got to connect with my boy Skyler, right?" And so he gets her number. He passes it to me. And I remember when getting out, and my whole train of thought was most people's goals. We know what most people's goals are when you get out of prison. my thought was I wasn't even interested in ladies. I wasn't gonna go talk to them. My goal was music. I wasn't even gonna get in that shenanigans. Like, let's just focus on music. That was my goal, right? And so I'm talking with Kayla, and I'm like, okay, we got a singer. Let's meet. So we met at a diner on 6th and Anarchy. It's called The Originals. And I remember when she first walked in, and I remember looking at her, and, you know, I got up. I was a little late to get up just because I think that's her, you know? And so she sits down. I get up. I'm like, hey, sit down. You know, I have a notebook on her. This is how focused I was on the goals, right? I have a notebook on her side and a notebook on my side. We both got pens. And I told her, I'll buy you dinner. Let's talk about music. And so, you know, we started talking about music, and she mentioned she sings, and it's crazy because we're from two different worlds. I come from addiction. She's from a whole different world. I was like, tell me about yourself, you know? And she's like, oh, I'm classically trained, background in opera, studied music theory, lived in Italy for a year, went to Queens College, all this stuff just way out of my league. Like,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, you know, it's a whole different world.
What a coincidence.
Yeah, what a coincidence. What year were you in Queens? We probably ran into each other.
Yeah, remember that school? Yeah, I heard of that.
And so, like, she's like, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And she's like, tell me about you. And I was like, well, I just got out of prison and I'm a rapper, you know? So it's like two different worlds, but here's where the common bond over music, okay, is when she was a young girl and wanted to be Mariah Carey, she would sing in the mirror with a hairbrush. And when I was a young boy dating back to 1999, 9 years old, I fell in love with Eminem and I wanted to rap. So from young kids, little kids, we both want to do music. So that was our connection that we bonded over. Mm-hmm. Different worlds like yin and yang, but we fit, you know? And so we started talking, and it was scary because it was really embarrassing because we're two strangers and we're sharing our dreams. And we're writing down stuff in this notebook. We're smashing down some chili cheese fries. You know, we're laughing. We've never met before. And we're like, oh, we should do a song. And we both agreed that'd be cool. And we're like, you know, what if we did like a music video for it? And then she's like, you know, maybe we'd have to perform it. What if we did like an album? And I was like, well, then we're like, what if we went on tour? You know, and fast forward it, like we've been able to gain, you know, close to 500,000 followers now. We've been able to rock arenas, travel the world, go on tours together. Everything we wrote as strangers in that notebook, right? We've been able to complete. We are engaged. We're best friends. And truly, that is the magic of it. But she gives me the confidence to go out there and chase my dreams because she reminds me every day, not only with her affection, not only with the way she treats me, but she gives me the confidence to take that chance because even if the sky starts falling and everything goes to hell, we still have each other at the end of the day. And so and plus I go out there with her, like it doesn't even matter what I sound like, what I do, she will carry the whole entire show.
You know, I've sat there, like I said, when I had you on as that first time,
yeah.
You know, I was telling you about some of the songs going back and forth. And I said, when you hear it, it's like, you know, kind of being in a fight, man.
Yeah.
You know, you're out there doing your thing, so you throw this jab, and then she comes across with this hook and just lays you out. Or you come out, she comes out with the jab, and you come out with the hook. I go, it just complements each other.
Thank you.
And the thing is, too, is, you know, talking about her and all that, and, you know, the difference in the music, the style and all that, but it's music, man, that common bond. And, you know, all this stuff I remember, I don't forget shit.
Yeah.
You know, all those things bring it up. And another one was, you know, you're like, you know what? I'm rapping. I'm sober. I'm doing all this. Yeah. And you're like, I'm not that bad. I'm pretty good. Then she's like, oh, actually, you're not.
Yeah.
You know, your whole beat's off or whatever it was.
Yes,
she said,
yes.
Just so you know. So it was like, oh. But you know what?
She helped me.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
And why not to... You know, it was never meant to be, you know, disrespectful.
No,
it was meant to be, you know,
it was constructive criticism.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm happy she told me because it made a world difference. Her
ear.
Her ear. She's like, not only one, did I respect her talent, her air, and where she comes from a music background. You know what I'm used to just dealing with rappers, like homeboys that wanted to rap, right? I never she's a real deal music artist, you know? At least that's the way I held her up, you know? And so I was telling her stuff and I was showing her my music and she's like, it's good, but you're offbeat. And I was like, what do you mean I'm in between the claps? And she's like, I don't know what that means. Sure, you're between the claps, but let me show you, right? She delivered it in such a loving way, but also I trusted her heart and her intentions. She wasn't there putting me down, and she was also willing to show me, right? And so we had our own little home studio, and so we'd record stuff, and she would cut my syllables, she would cut my words, my phrases, and she would put me in the pocket. And then I realized there's levels to it. So not only was I rapping off beat, so on beat, off beat, I was off beat. So when you're on beat, there's a difference between being on beat and riding the beat. And that's being in the pockets, right? And so I always knew my music sounded amateur, but I thought it was just that because I'm amateur. I knew it wasn't listening to Eminem or what you hear on the radio, but I'm just I'm an amateur, bad recording studio, I'm working on it. But to find out for 17, 18 years, whatever the timeline is, I was off beat. And so she would put me in all these pieces. This is the key, I think, to a lot of success. Not only having her, not only getting clean and my content switching, it's the perfect storm.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so she'd put me in the pocket, and then we made a whole album like that. And then we did 30 shows with this album, okay? And then I went back to the studio and I went to rap something, and I was like, that sounds off. And I'm like, oh, I'm off beat. Hold on. And my ear started training because I was rehearsing so much with that album. I started hearing it. And now to this day, it's crazy because I could go to make something and I'm like, nah, that's off. Or go to no, it needs to pop like this. It needs to hit like this. My ear is so much better and I owe that to her. So with all those changes and shifts, I owe it to her. I owe it to her. I also owe it to myself on the getting the clean part. So, it's a beautiful life. I'm grateful.
Well, so. I mean, and plus, she has no problem putting you in your place.
She does not.
I've seen that firsthand when she is put the hammer down on Monopoly. And she was just how about if I sell you this? And she was just like, no.
She don't let me win.
And, so besides, you talk about the perfect storm.
Yeah.
That could be good and bad.
Yeah.
And you've experienced both.
I have.
The perfect storm was a pile of shit that hit you and your brother at a young age, being left on the curb by mom.
Yeah.
And then full circle, the perfect storm coming together with Kayla, the music and all that, the tour. I mean, life is good. And not only that, I'm not going to let you go without forgetting someone else here because people would be tearing my ass up if I didn't bring up Pound Cake.
Love Pound Cake.
Everyone knows Skyler Ray and Kayla. You know what? If I were to end this interview without bringing up Pound Cake, I would never hear the end of it.
Check it out. So Pound Cake is my baby girl. I call her baby girl because she growls, right? She is an English bulldog. She is 4 years old. She's about 34 to 36 pounds. Depends on how much bacon or cheese she gets, right?
She look like Uncle Manny.
Oh, geez. But she's my daughter. She's taught me to love on a whole different level. And she is so important to my motivation, right? We picked her up in Indiana. Well, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, but she came from a breeder in Indiana. And we got her a few years ago. And I've never knew about love on this level. It's like a kid love, right? I've never experienced having a kid. And I would do anything for Kayla. It's my best friend, my soulmate, everything, right? But the love for Pound Cake is just so much different. It is crazy. She has me wrapped around her finger, whatever, whenever.
Oh, yeah.
It is Pound Cake's world. We call her Mamas, and she's everything. So I love her.
Oh, I tell you, and you guys saw, with not only that, Pound Cake made her debut many times with lives and all that, with Music and Mayhem, because a lot of times it'd be, where's Susie, where's Pound Cake?
Yep.
And more times it was Pound Cake because Susie's a little diva. So she
The
would
wonder
be
dog.
in her own chair.
Yeah.
She was like, I'll come on camera, there's my tail, then goodbye. But it was like, as soon as they'd see that face, it was just like, boom, 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 comments, Pound Cake, Pound Cake. It's like, we're here too. Pound Cake, Pound Cake. But I mean, it's just, it goes to show, man, that, something I've said all along, addiction's just a word, and some people give it so much power, and because it's scary, man.
It is scary.
I mean, it's killed a lot of our family and friends, people we've personally known. I mean, I put people in body bags. You've lost people. We all have. And, sometimes people give addiction too much power, but we're, like I said, living proof
that it's possible to break the cycle,
and just everything's possible, and everything that you do. And the one big thing is how what I've noticed is how it just doesn't stop with being sober. A lot of people in recovery, I always say this too, man, no one would blame you if you got this amazing life now with you and Kayla, Pound Cake, the career and everything going. If you just focused on just you, Kayla, your music, and Pound Cake, and no recovery, nothing, no podcast, no recovery, just no one would blame you, man, because you're being the best you for you and Kayla.
Have to.
But that's not what we do, man. It's like, I'm going to help other people. I'm going to share this painful story. And that's what we do.
There's a reason why we've been through the fire. There's a reason why, they say God won't give you something you can't handle. And so I truly believe I wouldn't change any of the pain. I wouldn't change through any of the hardship. I had a lot of fun out there. But with that being said, everything was supposed to happen because it made me the man I am today. My principles, my beliefs, what I stand on. And, I truly believe that, like, people like us, like addicts, you make it out the other end, you were given a higher purpose.
Oh, yeah, we hear that just like, you're here for a reason.
Yes.
I remember when I first started hearing that, it was like, what fucking possible
what is the
reason for me? Or you need to share your story. Why? Not understanding any of it. And then the first time I told my story, I remember telling it, and then all of a sudden the feedback was just like, and it was like, what? It's just, this is my story. But I didn't realize how it affected other people in different ways. Some people not at all, but then they hear your story and it's like, holy shit. Everyone has their own voice, and, we sharing it just makes us all that much more special. And by you guys reaching it in different ways, by not only the tour and your music connecting with them, but the message behind it. So that says mountains about you and Kayla.
Thank you.
As far as all that.
Yeah, I think the reason why we don't feel like as people that our stories would benefit anybody or maybe give them some insight or be able to inspire them is because we're with ourselves every day. And, Woe told me that one time, my buddy Woe, King Handsome, and he would always tell me, man, you're great, and all this, like, people love your greatness. And I'm thinking, like, you're kind of blowing smoke. I get you're my friend, but, like, why are you always telling me I'm great? Like, I don't feel great. I feel the same, right? I feel like a normal human, and I still do, But he's like, man, you just don't recognize it because you're with your greatness all the time. And I started thinking about that, and I was like, that's even more silly. Hold on a second. You really blowing smoke, What am I, just blind to greatness, And I started thinking about it, and I was like, maybe it's because we sit with ourselves. We understand, like, our fears, our insecurities. We personally live the experience of all our mistakes, even in sobriety. We know how we're scared and like how many times we try to do something and we fail and we realize we can't. We kill our own confidence. So it's weird to live that daily experience with ourselves. And someone's like, oh, you're so great. And you're like, are you kidding me? How am I great? So I think that's the same with our stories. Being like, oh, how is my story going to affect somebody? And it's like, why don't you tell it and find out?
Oh, and I say that all the time because I'll have people that'll come on as guests and then other people scheduled. And then I've had people that are scheduled down the road reach out and say, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to come on, man. I've seen some of these guests who've just come on and my story is nothing like theirs. I'm like, this isn't a competition. Trust me, your story is going to touch somebody. And, and for us too, hearing those words, how great and special and kind and all these positives, those aren't words that I heard, in my crazy ass life. I mean, you bring up my name and, great guy, kind of, no, it's like that fucking prick, evil bastard. Yeah. And I was good with that.
Yeah.
Hearing these positive things.
I worked hard to get there.
Trying to oh, okay. So, but it's just amazing. And, it's there. Our choices are here for us to make, and sometimes we're afraid to make them, but having you on, telling your story, sharing Kayla, sharing all these things like the perfect storm is going to help so many people, man. So I definitely appreciate it.
Of course.
You know what? I mean, you got so much going on. We are both going to be together Saturday. Again, this Saturday the 30th at Brian Cody's Brothers and Sisters Foundation. You, Kayla, Whoa, AC are performing. That's going to be this Saturday, but you've got shows before that, after that.
Yes.
So before we end this up, why don't you let people know, first of all, where they could find you as far as that, and then show-wise.
Okay, so look, you can find me any social media platform. Just type in Skyler Ray. That's with the E, so Skyler, and then Ray, Ray. And don't forget to check out Kayla Mulcahy, too. That's Kala. There's no Y in Kayla. And then Mulachy. So Kayla Mulcahy, check her out as well. But yeah, you could search us anywhere, Spotify, any major streaming platform if you want to hear our music. If you just want to reach out, you can do that as well. But we have upcoming shows. Tomorrow, we will be in Fall River from 6 to 9 p.m. That is Massachusetts. Then Brian Cody's Foundation on 25 Main Street in New Milford, Connecticut. I think we go on around like 2:15, 2:30. And then we head out to Houston, Texas the next day for a show out there. And then we do Hands Across the Bridge the very next day on the 1st. So 4 shows back to back. We'll be there around 12. That is in Vancouver, Washington at Esther Park. And then we head out to Kentucky and Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Missing a little details there, but it's Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. On the 12th, we will be out in Klamath Falls, Hands Across the Bridge. And I know we got like Oklahoma, Nebraska, all these things, but you could look it up. Skyler Ray on there. Hit me up. I'll get you the full tour schedule. So
yeah, I mean, you go to the pages. You got all the dates, the tours, and all that set up. Let's see, what else were we going to... I know there was something else I wanted to throw out there for you. You got the dates, you got the times. The tour right now, the
Road to Recovery Tour.
Road to Recovery Tour. What are we up to right now? What number?
100. So tomorrow will be stop number 103. And it's crazy because that's not a made-up number. Like, that means there was literally 102 stops prior to that. And what we do is we bring recovery-focused events to jails, prisons, and rehabs around the country. Me and Kayla show up, just us two, unless we're part of like bigger events like tomorrow and the next day. But yeah, we show up and I speak, I share my testimony, and then me and Kayla put on a concert. So,
well, there you go, man. People helping people.
Yep.
And like I said, man, you never know, folks. You never know what could happen. So don't ever give up on your dreams, man, because a year ago, we were sitting there talking on a monitor.
Yeah.
Just talking as a guest and a host of a show, just talking, doing this, and then made a joke about what could happen. And a year later,
here we are.
Here it is, man. It's happening. So dreams come true. Addiction's only a word.
Yes.
Life goes on, man. So, brother, thank you
for
coming on. And this isn't over yet, man. We got, you got a busy, you and Kayla, few days coming up here. So here I'm going to say, rest your voices as I'm losing mine again. But that's normal for me. But I really appreciate it. And Saturday, if you guys in Connecticut area, come check us out. Check out their performance. It's going to be amazing. But until then, man, thank you guys so much for everything. Check out My Fight, Our War, Skyler Ray, and, of course, the Brian Cody Brothers and Sisters Foundation this Saturday the 30th. And love you guys. Until then, man, keep fighting the good fight.